yesterday too. I had so much more appreciation for her yesterday. I said, like, I had problems listening to her today as well.
I don't have a lot of voice left, so
This is gonna be fun.
that's all right. We'll be fine.
This hour will be fun for you?
Thanks for waiting for me, kids.
Okay, first question is ready.
Hi, Linda.
Hi.
I've written down my question because it's quite a little complex one, so I hope you're not too tired. Sorry, many of Sarah Connor's most memorable moments for me was when she was completely silent. It was in those moments that I felt that she said the most. If you were our teacher and we were your acting class, how would you describe your experience in those moments? It would be so easy for an actor to just be intense and not show the underlying story and the truth of the character.
Very good question. Acting is about being there and being there on every level. When we're silent, hopefully we're listening. Hopefully we're responding to the environment around us. It's not about just speaking your line and then waiting until you get to speak your next line. You know, you really want to feel it. And I think that is something that young actors, it takes practice and, you know, the experience of being able to be relaxed enough that you really can see what's going on around you. And when you're a new actor, you're worried about what to do with your hands. Do you know what I mean? But really it's about just planting and listening. And that's what I'm always interested in when I see people on film. Are they listening? Are they really there? Are they listening? Because that's what makes the moments come to life, you know, where you're really able to listen and respond. So it's just a question of planting yourself and just being there, and being there on every level, not just when you're saying your line.
And made you want to act?
I don't think that I was particularly inspired by anything other than doing children's theater. I did it with my twin sister. And not because we were particularly talented, but because we were twins and it was the 60s and everyone thought twins were really cool, right? So we would do Rumpelstiltskin starring the Hamilton twins. And she'd play it one night, she'd play the princess one night, and I'd play the princess the next night. But I'll tell you what, and this is, I think, is kind of telling, is that, okay, the first year that we did that, we were like 10 years old, right? Didn't really have that much impact. I enjoyed doing that, playing the princess in Rumpelstiltskin, but next year, we did Wind in the Willows, or the theater version, the theatrical version for kids is Toad of Toad Hall. And my twin played Toad, and I got to be Badger. Badger was just angry. And Badger got to come out of a pile of leaves and scare the little kids. And that was what I fell in love with. It wasn't the princess part. It was like the power to sort of pop out and scare the crap out of people. And I think that sort of, it's funny that, like, considering the career I had, that, like, I'm definitely the Badger, not the princess. There's just no sense trying to put them all together. They don't work together. They have different timelines and different storylines. But the third one was very much, I mean, my third one, Dark Fate, was very much the third of my trilogy. And so that's all I really focused on, was completing my story and my character arc. So it was good to be able to just sort of clear it out and know that my task was really to just fill in the blanks about where Sarah Connor has been since we last saw her. And Getting ready for it was hard. I mean, physically really hard, of course, because it was 30 years later, and you know, I was 60-something years old. But really, I understood, having spent so many years with Sarah Connor and with her under my skin, or me in her skin, whatever way we want to say it, I knew that she would be deeply tormented. Even though the last time we've seen her, there's hopefulness. I knew that John Connor was not going to be with us, that he had been killed. I mean, I knew that before the script was written. So that's all you really need to know, that her world is over, and she's a broken human being. So that's what I worked on, and I worked on it forever, because the film was put off over and over again, and I think it was like 18 months of getting ready and eating no carbs, and that'll make you angry. You know, it was freezing cold in the Kearns factory. I mean, even though it was LA, or outside of LA, and not the Kearns factory, the steel factory, it was freezing cold. It was a very cold winter, close to Christmas, and you know, there they are spraying us down with water to make it look like it was really hot there, you know? So physically, I know that it was hard for her. And it was a really lovely bonding experience, for her to see that it ain't the glamour that everyone thinks it will be. You know, we were just side by side, and it was lovely to have her there for a minute or two, you know, really great.
Down stage right.
Hello. Well, as I said, I really did love acting. I mean, as a child, I don't know how much that really follows you into your life, but I did love acting, and I played around with it in high school. I remember being the drama teacher, sort of, not the go-to girl, but I directed a play in high school. But then basically, you know, how I became an actress is that I followed a boyfriend to New York. I mean, it was just like, I was a real country girl, and I was in college and always been an outsider. So here I am in, you know, a lovely little college, but I didn't want to do college theater. I didn't like the whole structure of the professor, you know, having all that power over the actresses in the department. Do you know what I mean? I just sort of felt uncomfortable that you really had to suck up to Tim Mahoney to like be anything in college. So I did community theater. You know, I just always stepped outside expectations somehow. So I did community theater, and then my boyfriend, a local, a townie, went to New York. He was kind of a trust fund baby, so he had the money to just do whatever he wanted, and never had to make a living at it because he was a trust fund baby. And he went to New York, and I was like, oh, you can do that? Like, and that's literally how it happened, was like, I was like, oh, I'm gonna do that too. And I went to New York, and really, you know, lived with rats and roaches and rubbers, and earned my stripes. And I don't know that I've ever been a particular lover of film, like you might think, or a cinephile. I just love acting. Like, I'm very simple. I want to be on set. Being on set is the happiest day of my life every time I'm on set. So it was just sort of truly just followed a boyfriend to New York. That's the short story. And then made a go of it. Never wanted to be famous, absolutely wasn't even in my lexicon, the word fame, you know? I just wanted to be acting every day. And it's worked out pretty well. If you were very likely, I understood that he was key to its success, but also I had played her to the hilt, and it felt like the character arc was very complete from 1 to 2. And so I felt rather incorruptible, you know, would never do something just for the money or just for, it had to be there in the script. And they did write something that was just like, the character was a throwaway. You know, she was in the movie, but then she dies and they leave her in the hallway and that's it. Like the movie continues. And it just, I mean, there was it was thankless. And I was like, nope, not unless, and I really never saw a possibility of me coming back. I mean, I used to go like, yeah, geriatric Sarah, and then I played the geriatric Sarah. But it was because there was that long gap, and I had 30 years to fill with the character, and I thought, well, this will be interesting. Who is Sarah Connor as an old woman, as an old fighter? And I kept trying to convince them that it would be a real great shock, you know, from the Sarah Connor in between the first and the second film, how shocking it is that she shows up in the second one just like primed. And I wanted to be like out of shape for the third one. I was like, well, that'll shock the audience. Like, she is totally not ready. Like, and they wouldn't go for that. But it was the endless possibilities of a character who's lived with, you know, a broken spirit for so long. You know, that's a good jumping off place. And so that was why I returned. I really loved the scene, the scene that didn't make it in the movie with me and Michael Biehn in the dream sequence. That was really nice. Yeah, that was just personally really nice. We had some fantastic moments every single day. Like, I mean, there were the funny bits where Arnold didn't quite understand that my twin was on set. And there was a day in the trailer, and it's kind of infuriating because he never ever treated me like this. But the day that my sister was there, and she bent over to retrieve something from the ground, and Arnold steps up behind her and sort of mounts her. Then he looks over and he sees me, and the look of terror on that man's face when he realized what he was doing was priceless. So that's a real good takeaway. I mean, he never actually played around with me like that, so it was like, what the you know, and then his look back like, what the when he realized it was my twin and not me. That was pretty funny. You know, it really, that film was a great, incredible lesson for me because it's probably the first time in my life that I really learned to be in the moment, to be fully in the moment, which is such a blessing when you can finally get there. But it was largely because we'd be in the steel mill and it was just so bloody cold and dreadful and dirty and long, and everyone like couldn't wait to get out of there. And I just remember the crew just could not wait to get out of there. But I knew that coming up for me was the mental hospital stuff. And there was not going to be an easier day in the filming ever. Do you know what I mean? So I just planted myself and worked hard every day and just said it might feel good to be on a different location, but I'll be working just as hard and suffering just as hard. So it was a really important life lesson to just stay planted in the minute and take it day by day, because that's all you can do when you're working that hard. I mean, I'd be shooting all day long, and I mean, I can remember the days of being in the steel mill and pulling myself up by one arm, and then they cut the scene and do a different setup, and I'd be downstairs with the trainer working on the other arm. Do you know what I mean? There was never a break. It was just like, keep going, keep going, keep going. And you know, that there were some real valuable life lessons that were learned.
To your left again.
Hi, Linda. You've got the most iconic voice on the entire planet. I just have to say that. James Cameron is the writer and director of these films, but
Yes.
Sarah Connor is your creation. I was just wondering if you could give me a specific detail that you created for this character.
Right. I mean, I think Jim and I have fought for years about who created Sarah Connor, because he would definitely take credit for it every single time. I'm like, yeah, you might have started, but I finished, you know? Yeah, when he came to me for the second one, when he came to me, I was hugely pregnant, I believe. And he said, we're gonna do another one. I'm like, well, good luck with that. Like, you know, I just was so huge. And he said, we're gonna do this. And it was 7 years later, right? No one saw this one coming. And I said, okay, make her crazy. And that's what we got. So I'll take full credit for that. Thank you, Jim Cameron. I mean, I just knew that anyone who'd been living with the certainty of what's coming her way and the world's way was gonna be crazy. She was gonna be the voice in the wilderness, like John the Baptist, who's trying to tell everybody about Jesus and no one's gonna listen, you know? And I did, you know, of course, in those days, and because it was such a huge film, I really thought about it in biblical terms. And, you know, to the point of, like, I really thought of, it sounds so sort of, you know, grandiose, but it was really like Mary Magdalene, who's given a future she's not asked for. And then John the Baptist, the voice in the wilderness that no one listens to. And then the third one was Lazarus, back from the dead. You know, just, those were my three focus points while I was doing those movies. It's like, okay, time for Lazarus, back from the dead. But yeah, you know, it meant a lot. I'm not being dismissive of it at all. They were just, you know, things live large in your soul when you're spending that time and that energy creating them. And that's kind of how I see the trilogy of those three movies.
Your experience on that show, and what was it like working with that cast?
Oh, that was just a charming experience for me all the way down the line, because I think NBC had really failed that show. They didn't know how to sell it, you know, because when they offered me the part, I was like, what's Chuck? You know, and it was in its fourth season. And I think NBC didn't really know how to sell it, because it just kind of stayed under the radar, but it was so good. And I loved, you know, them sort of turning the tables, like on so many levels. The women were the killers and the men were the goofballs. And the comedy came from the men and the women were just like killers. And it was great fun. It was great fun. I just so admired the cast. Yvonne, like, so rocks. And Zachary was just incredibly much a leading man. I think that really as a leading woman and as a leading man, our job is also to carry the crew with us and truly be leader. When they say leading, you know, it's about showing grace and courtesy and humor and keeping everyone going. And it's amazing to me that the leading men and leading ladies don't just automatically assume that position. But a lot of them, many of them don't. They'll be like, I'm out. Like they won't be there for their close-up, for their other actors' close-ups. And you end up like they'll do their coverage and then they're out the door and suddenly you as their counterpart are acting to a piece of tape on a pole because the leading man really doesn't want to be there, does he? And so I loved Zachary Levi's leadership. He was right on. He was spot on as a person as well as an actor, and that is deeply appreciated by some of us.
Awesome Sarah Connor would be in the second film, and if you did or didn't, do you think it would have changed how you approached playing the character in the first film?
Oh Lord, no, one project at a time, baby. You can't anticipate the future. Well, some of us can. No, it really did not see ever or imagine that there would be a sequel or that it would grow into what it did. But when they wrote the script for the second one, so 7 years later, I then knew. I was like, oh shit, this is so much bigger. And I think I knew, but you never really know how big, like, what huge is until you're in the midst of it. I mean, I remember the premiere, and, well, I don't remember the premiere because it was I remember not remembering the premiere because it was so overwhelming. The response and the audience, and, you know, I don't know, everybody else was having a great time, but I was like, married to one spot. It felt like a wedding reception where people were just, you know, it was a flood of people giving me feedback and appreciation and stuff, and not that that's not nice, but like it was literally a lost memory because it was so big and so overwhelming. So, you know, you can say, oh yeah, this is gonna be big, but until you're in the midst of it, you really don't know. And I don't think that anything would have changed the performance of the first one because that's Sarah Connor then, and then later we do Sarah Connor later, right? All right.
To your left at the front of the...
Hi, Linda.
Hi, love.
I was wondering, of the qualities you brought to the role of Sarah Connor, which do you feel the most proud?
Very good question. I think that I'm supposed to say that she empowered women, but that's a byproduct of what I did. It's not really an aim. It's not something that Sarah Connor would appreciate hearing, I think, even. You know, everybody was like, I think they kind of mistook the work that I did in the physique for, like, we want to be like Sarah. And I was like, fuck no. She's a woman who is suffering. She's a woman in hell. No one wants to be Sarah Connor because that was my experience of her. Was not just like, okay, she gets, you know, she gets her moments here and there, but she's haunted, she's hunted, she's bitter, she's broken. And so, like, forget that really didn't add up. I think what I'm most proud of would be the depth that I went into for the third one, and maybe that's just how life works. Like, the longer you're given a character to breathe and breathe life to, the more, really committed you are. Not that I ever have a commitment problem, but I tell you, when I say deep grief and loss, there was, and it can break you too, because I don't mean just the playing of the part, but I sat on a log in a scene in the third movie and cried the deepest remorse and pain. I mean, I've been working on it for a long time, and here it is. And when I'm doing work like that, I don't get up. I don't get up and walk away. I sat on that log and wept my soul out for 5 hours, 6 hours. And the scene is a very short scene, and Tim didn't love the way it was written, and he was trying to rework it while we're shooting it, and I'm sitting on that log, grieving for humanity and everything around me. And really, it's not a moment that they gave any real attention to. He kept the scene short. He didn't like Natalia's, not Natalia the actress. I mean, he didn't like Danny's, like, there is Sarah. And it wasn't well written. It was just like, when it was first written, it was like, John. This is after she's seen the Terminator and has, tried to kill him, and, and is once again grieving her son, but all she really comes up with is John. I mean, that was the writing, and I was like, dude, like, that might be Sarah Connor back then when he died, but like, there's got to be more. And I added a little bit to it, took some stuff away, and it was such a brief moment. But then Danny is like, Sarah, and she starts telling me her sadness and how, you know what I mean? And Tim just did not like that her response to my grief was about her, not about, so we never really got it. He's trying to rewrite the scene while I'm just sitting on that log, grieving. And it was heartbreaking because really, they never showed the close-ups, it was just like, obviously Tim's bias against the scene, and probably a scene that didn't work to serve the film on some level, and just momentum-wise, moment-wise, timing-wise, but I did acting of a lifetime in that film in different moments. I mean, of a lifetime. Of a lifetime, that's all I can say. And so much of it was not in the film. And so you kind of, you can't get attached, and you can't be too proud because you never know what's gonna end up on the cutting room floor. But I do know that I gave it everything, and whether it's in the film or not, I gave it everything, and I'm proud of myself.
Terminator 2, which scene would it be and why?
I did change a scene in Terminator in the editing room, which was crazy, but I was sleeping with the director. So I had an extra little, weigh in. But when Sarah Connor goes to Dyson's house to kill the fuck out of him, it's hard for me to remember exactly how, but Sarah's breakdown after the Terminators come in and stopped her, and she immediately launched in the script and the way that we shot it. She's just immediately, John, I almost, and there was no real time to separate like her actions and intentions to that moment. There was just really hard to jump from this to that too, and we did it. But in the editing room, which I really had no place really and was hardly there. I was probably, I don't even know why I was there, but I knew that it needed to be turned around a little bit, and they did. Some of the dissolution of other moments, and then came back to me and John, and because somehow we made it work. I was like, what if? And it just worked so much better to sort of get that little bit of separation from what Sarah was going to do to her realization of what she almost did. Because that doesn't happen like that. And it had happened too quickly in the script as written, but somehow we just turned it around and I was like, oh, much better. And Jim was like, much better. So I really feel like I fixed that scene because it just lived and landed a little bit better. I really wish that my hair didn't look like that in the first one. I can't believe that movie had any legs at all with that hair, which we called the Darnell wig. Darnell meaning yarn. It wasn't even, like not even a human hair wig. It was my hair, by the way, but it really looked like a Darnell wig. And I just laughed going, how did that happen that movie had legs with that hair? So, that might have been a little better done. And that's about my only regret, the hair.
To your left of the stairs.
Helena, thank you so much for coming. I would like to ask you a question. What was it like filming Stranger Things Season 5? It's like such a massive fan base. And who was your favourite character in Season 5?
Character or person? Different. Okay, everyone here knows imposter syndrome. Yeah, I had a bit of imposter syndrome on that film. On that show, because I was a fan. And when it came up, I was like, well, yeah, no, I'm a fan. I can't be in it. That's their world, and they do it so well. It's interesting when you have early impressions of something. I really did love the show. I was a big fan. I have a part of my house that I call the outside in. I'm a real fan. So it was definitely weird. And joining a cast that has been together for 10 years, on and off, but really over an extended period of 10 years, and kind of jumping in was weird. Everyone was just kind, and the brothers are fantastic, and there was absolutely no resistance or anything, but it's just your interior world is saying, what am I doing here? And I love Jamie as Vecna. He's just fantastic and so great to hang around with and smoke cigarettes with. Loved him. We actually had a coach that was this. I was like, is that Andemühlemeister? No one knows. And he was wearing an Andemühlemeister coat, so he had me at Andemühlemeister. He was just incredibly pleasant. And then Millie is, all the kids were great, absolutely great and welcoming. But Millie, she has just got a quality that you cannot name. And she was so utterly game and fun and professional. And what I really appreciate about her is the fun part. Because how do you be 21 and be that good and still be playful on set and able to go, Linda, you opened it the wrong side. Just utterly fun to play with and very impressive. And then they roll they finish, they wrap her, and she runs screaming off the set to be a 21-year-old, absolutely a perfect human being. And I think probably the greatest compliment that I had almost ever was that she told me she wanted to be me when she grows up. was like, darling, you're me, and twice that, you know, but she was just, love her. And generous, and wanted me to meet her family, and pet the dogs, and come over for dinner. You know, I mean, she's like that person, just does not do anything but be her true self, and I respect that.
This is going to be the last question, right in the middle, up the stage.
I see
Auditorium.
you.
I'm glad you can see me if you couldn't spit it. So obviously we know, you know, you're Sarah Connor, you're in Stranger Things, you know, that's probably introduced you to a younger audience as well. Is there a work of yours that, you know, maybe a little more obscure or less well known that you're really proud of that we should all
King
go
Kong
home tonight and
lives.
see?
It's gotta be King Kong Lives. No, because then you try to go and see it. I don't know. I really like the parts that I've been getting lately. Who knows? Like, who knew that as an aging actress, like it's wonderful to be me right now because I am of a certain age and I no longer have to worry about beauty and weird beauty standards and keeping up. Never did I ever try to keep up, or never did I keep up. But to be liberated from all of that and just go, you know what? I mean, you know, you're a working actress and you're on a show called Beauty and the Beast and you have a responsibility to play beautiful or to be a beauty or whatever that means. And I'd be like, damn it, gotta go get that manicure this weekend instead of just being lazy, which is what I really want to do. I mean, there is this pressure, and I'm sure now more than ever to like meet this false beauty standard. I'm really happy that that is no longer a part of my life, that I can wake up and go, oh shit, I look like shit, and then I go, that's okay though, because no one cares if I'm like gorgeous, you know, and that is truly liberating. But I've also gotten this just fun characters lately. You know, I did a little film for USC, for their film department. They have a professor there who's a crazy man, and every year they do a film from his, you know, I guess the ones that are graduating, you know, the top tier, all of the film department. So, and he'll rework something and do, you know, a mad version of this or that. And I did a movie that was Jack and Lou, a gangsta love story. And it was a true couple, Jack and Lou, who she was a gun moll, basically, and he's a great killer for Al Capone. They're part of Al Capone's group. And it's their love story in the 20s. A really kind of lovely love story, but, you know, they are killers. Or, whatever. So it was the story, look, get this. There were 11 directors. They just divided the pages up. And you know, this director got those, you know, literally 11 different directors. I think I worked with maybe 8 of them, because I'm not in every page, but, so it's Lou's story, and now she's now like a blowhard, drunken, married 8 times. It's Lou in the 60s telling the story of her love when she was in her 20s. So of course there's a lovely actress playing Lou in her prime in the 20s, and then there's me. And man, the bad wig, but you know, we made it a sort of a story point that this woman she's just gonna keep on going, and the cigarettes and the alcohol and the storytelling and the bad wig and fantastic. The pressure to deal with 11 different or 8 different directors. I had to dance, and it was just a joy to play. I mean, really tough. Contacts, wig, aviator glasses, COVID mask. But like fantastic acting, it was the first thing that I've ever done that had 0 Linda Hamilton in it. Just none of me. I had to completely disappear to play this wreck of a woman telling a story. And, I just kept reading it going, why did they come to me? But it was flattering, and I, as usual, worked my butt off. And I never see it. I don't see my work anymore. I just kind of throw it all in there and go home and hope that it comes out. And I'm sure that the film was flawed because you had 11 different directors. I mean, there was one director, oh my God, there was a scene that my character is, okay, so a woman comes to interview me, and it turns out at the end of the story that she has a real investment in learning my story, but she's doing this interview, so it's basically all of my stuff is sitting and telling her the tale, right? And then they'll do the flashbacks with the other young and beautiful me. But anyway, at one point my character offers her lobster roll and makes a big point of serving it and really encouraging her. I mean, my character is like drunk the whole time and just like really exaggerating and performative and really has no real soul to speak of, or she would tell the story differently, but she's still romanticizing Jack and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, we get one director who gets one line of mine, which is the lobster roll. Like, right? His junky part has like one little scene, and I have one little line, or maybe 2 lines, which is like, dude, you sure you don't want this? We imported from from blah, blah, blah. And so this director, God bless young people. We're rehearsing and we're doing our best. Well, this man, because he really wants to direct me, so he's like, what does lobster roll mean to you? I mean, what does lobster roll really do for you? I mean, it's sort of like the movie, right? It's like kind of bitter, it's kind of... I mean, this guy goes on and it's like, dude, it's lobster roll. I mean, like, cut it. But to see people that are so invested and, you know what I mean? And then it's like, next. But joyful, right? And just joyful, and to school those children who thought they should reinvent the way movies are made because they had 3 days of like the most intense work. Non-stop work, because they packed it all into 3 days and through the entire movie, and they're just students. So they decide they're gonna shoot, I don't know if any of you are real students of film, they're gonna shoot all the masters one day. That means the basic film, from the wide shots, the basic like first pass at a scene is called the master. And then you go in and do little bits and do the overs and do the singles and the close-ups, and you don't go and shoot like 15 masters in one day and then come back the next day and try to remember what you did in those 15 masters, which you now have to match. You just can't do it. But they thought they'd be saving time by, we're gonna shoot all the masters first, and then you'd have an actress struggling to remember anything that she did because we shot 15 masters the day before. And the actress and I gamely tried it for a minute, and then I just looked at them and I went, kids. They don't do it this way for a reason. Do you know what I mean? You just can't do it. I'll be struggling every minute to go, what did I do yesterday? Because you haven't had the, you have to sit in a scene and bring it to life. You can't bring it to life over a course of 3 days, Anyway, It was joyful. It was joyful.
And on that note, can we please give a big round of applause?
Thank you. Thank you for the good questions too. Really smart questions, and I wish we could stay here for another hour because you are a great group of people. Thank you. Thank you.